Our guest today has been reading her entire life, so it's no surprise really that she would become an author herself. I introduce you to her today. Her name is Jessica Mack, and she is the author of Guardians of Mask and Memory. Jessica, this is a unique kind of book. How would you describe it? Is it science fiction? I think you said Afrofuturism.
Yeah, so I would definitely describe my book as Afrofuturist and also in the realm of fantasy. So those would be like the top two kind of like main ideas for like the genre for where I'd place it. Mhm.
Okay, for those who are unfamiliar with that genre, tell us a little bit about it and how long has it been out? I've never heard of it. Is it like one of those hidden genres you have to search for?
Right. So Afrofuturism has actually existed for a long time. And beyond being a book genre, it's like this kind of idea and philosophy that has existed amongst African American people in the diaspora. My professor in college taught an Afrofuturism class, and we learned about how Afrofuturism wasn't just in like more obvious like sci-fi ideals of like picturing Black people, but the idea of even African descendants who were slaves singing songs like Swing Low, Sweet Chariot was an Afrofuturist idea because it was idealizing Black people not suffering and being in like a kind of haven. So, like going to heaven itself is an Afrofuturist idea. The idea of Black people living in the future, beyond suffering, connecting with their roots and stuff like that. Those are all Afrofuturist ideas. And so, when I was writing this book, I was really interested in honing in on that kind of that space. So that's how I would describe it. Like it's not just a book genre. It can fit into music, it can fit into gospel, it can fit into books and all that kind of stuff. Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about your story, Guardians of Mass and Memory.
Right. So I've actually been writing or working on the story really since I was a little kid, like I'd say about 12 years old. And it's changed a lot over the years. But essentially, I wanted to use the perspective of the main character, Maleda, to explore what it was like for African Americans to be disenfranchised from African cultures. So I wanted to do that from her perspective. So this story is about a girl named Maleda who is a princess, and she's living the typical princess life. But this book starts with showing how she's isolated, and she enjoys her isolation very much Rapunzel like. She's in her own tower, and she actually enjoys being by herself. But then her life is thrown into upheaval by this hidden enemy, and she also loses her memory and becomes an amnesiac. So the whole point of the story is showing what it was like for her to be living her life, to be thrown out of her life by an unseen enemy. And on top of that, she has to remember who she is, kind of like how African Americans, once they dig into their roots and they just hit the surface of things and they see how much that they're missing of what their particular African culture might be, where they're descended from, and the journey of looking for those things and trying to understand yourself from that standpoint. So this whole story is like trying to dive into what it means to be disenfranchised from particular African cultures and what that kind of trauma can feel like from a young girl's perspective and what it means to find yourself again.
Jessica Mack, Guardians of Mask and Memory. This is your uh, initial story. I'm very proud of you. I've known Jessica since she was a little girl, and I think she said she started writing in middle school. So certainly, a child who's in middle school or loves to read might find this book enjoyable. Thank you so much for being here with us. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would just like to say thank you for speaking with me and doing this interview with me. And on top of that, for anyone who's out there making their work and they're afraid to put their foot forward, just take one step at a time. And it doesn't matter how slow you go as long as you don't stop.
Powerful words from Jessica Mack. Thank you very much for being here with us.